Hey everyone, and welcome back to the MSF Private Podcast. So, this, the fourth and final-ish episode, is officially titled The Operators Saved My Life. And its theme is perfectly encapsulated by a quotation I'm going to open with, and which, if you're a fan, you may have seen me use before, from Command Sergeant Major retired Eric L. Haney, founding member of the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, or 1st SFOD-D, also known as CAG, the Combat Applications Group, or Army Compartmented Elements, ACE, or Task Force Green, or most commonly by those in and around it, just the unit. This quote is from his book Inside Delta Force, which is truly one of the greatest special operations memoirs of all time. And yeah, I've actually read them all. Anyway, what CSM Haney said is, quote, "What was the lesson here? Simple. Don't quit. Never quit no matter what. Keep going until someone tells you to sit down. Keep going as long as you're able to move, no matter how poorly you think you may be doing. Just don't quit." This is a lesson he learned, burned into his soul and down to his boot soles during Delta Selection, the most grueling, arduous, and highest washout rate of all the world's special operations selection courses. Obviously, he got in. So, what all these guys learn, and what I only figured out very late in the day, almost when it was too late, is that this, the ability to operate effectively under conditions of adversity, might actually be the secret to life. This is because adversity is the one human universal. As Ryan Holiday unforgettably put it, you're always fighting uphill. Get used to it and train accordingly. So it turns out there are an awful lot of formulations of this principle, and once you're aware of it, you really start seeing it everywhere you look. It's in the Stoic philosophy of the ancient Greeks and Romans. It's in modern self-help books like Ryan Holiday's indispensable book, The Obstacle is the Way. It's in pop music. Even Tori Amos figured it out somewhere along the line, writing a song with the lyric, quote, "I've found the secret to life. I'm okay when everything is not okay." But where I personally finally got it from was from reading and writing obsessively about the military world's special operators, for whom resilience and resolve are their universal guiding principles, for whom resilience and resolve are everything. Basically, in practice, what that means is never quit, never give in, never give up, and definitely never whine or complain. Just get it done, no matter the difficulty or danger or setbacks or injuries suffered or friends fallen. The defining feature, in fact, of almost all special operations selection processes, like Delta Selection, where they decide who gets into these units, and this is particularly true for the really elite ones, is that they systematically make the candidates so completely miserable, exhausted, physically drained, and mentally crushed that only those with superhuman resilience and resolve stick around, never mind are still able to perform at the stratospherically high level required. Basically, by the end, because it has been so monumentally hard and sucky, virtually anyone remotely willing to quit anything under any circumstances has by then already thrown in the towel. And what's left at the end is only people who have no quit in them. And that, in addition to being professional level athletes with high intelligence and staggeringly large and diverse skill sets, is why they are unstoppable. All of this is also why they're completely and endlessly fascinating to write about. Basically, we've got real-life superheroes walking around. I've honestly never understood why the hell we need the MCU. We've got the real thing. But that is perhaps a rant for another time. Anyway, funnily enough, and to my great good fortune, it turned out just not to be possible for me to read the great piles of military special operations books and memoirs I do without, in some measure, however small and however fumblingly, eventually becoming infected with these guys' amazing spirit of resilience and resolve. I would read about them overcoming such utterly daunting and dangerous obstacles, both in training and operationally, in their real-life do-or-die missions, and going out and doing so over and over and over again. And it took no particular genius on my part to begin to consider, maybe my problems aren't so insurmountable. Maybe they can be overcome. Maybe all I really need is just the right attitude. What I needed was resilience and resolve. In fact, honestly, it may be no great exaggeration to say that the operators saved my life. They certainly saved my writing career. How could I give up on writing about these guys or on my ambition to make it as a writer when faced with nothing more than a little publishing industry adversity, when these guys never once gave up on their training or mission tasks, not even when facing daunting complexity and difficulty, horrendous danger, absurdly overwhelming odds, high risk of death or disabling injury, pain and struggle and soul-crushing exertion and endurance, the likes of which I can't even really imagine. So here's a long overdue thank you to the operators, not only for going out and saving the world and battling for freedom and decency every day, not only for training like professional athletes and performing like minor gods, not only for their enormous sacrifice and commitment, but for providing such an amazing and priceless example of how to make it through life successfully, with resilience to all difficulties and the resolve to never quit. And one last quote, this one from Navy SEAL and sniper instructor Brandon Webb. This was also in the context of training and selection, specifically in his final exam in the Naval Special Warfare Sniper course. Basically, with everything on the line, one of the targets, probably about a mile away, only came up halfway. He thought this was a malfunction initially, but it was totally intentional, to force him to act and see how he'd react when things didn't go his way. Because, of course, combat is virtually never fair. And here's the quote he went with at the time, which you've heard before, and which got him through his operational career. Tough, deal with it, adapt and overcome. And as I alluded to last time, or previous time, that there may be the secret to life. With those 7 words, you almost can't lose. Okay, I'm gonna close this series out with a final salute to you, the readers and fans. As I've mentioned in many places, getting to hear from you, particularly retired, active duty, and in many cases deployed military personnel, is absolutely the best part of this job. And it's often an incredibly humbling and inspiring experience. Over and over, I've heard from people who tell me ARISEN has helped them get through incredibly tough times in their lives. In many cases, wounded warriors, badly injured in combat, and battling through multiple surgeries and endless rehab to try to get their bodies working again. I've heard from law enforcement officers and other first responders injured in the line of duty. I've heard from Israelis literally reading inside rocket shelters during the Gaza war. I've gotten the incredible privilege of getting to befriend an Iraq war veteran and later private military contractor who was at once a gigantic tattooed badass and professional gunfighter, but also a complete and total sweetheart, who brings me cool shit from Kabul when he's stopping over on his way back to Texas. Ditto a former first sergeant in the 75th Ranger Regiment who happened to be in Mogadishu, Somalia on October 3 to 4, 1993, if that means anything to you. Yeah, that was Black Hawk Down. I've heard from a soldier who did 16 years in the British Army, 8 in the Australian Army, untold tours of Afghanistan, who had a Afghan National Army Brigadier General try to kill him twice. I've had the privilege of sending ARISEN box sets to deployed guys who wanted them for their team room and for their teammates. Unforgettably, I heard from a dude who told me he was swimming in open water when he got caught in a riptide. No matter how hard he swam, he was being pulled farther out to sea and his strength was quickly fading. And so he started to fall on panic, as most of us would. But then, for some reason, he thought about the operators in ARISEN and what they would tell him to do. And that was to keep his head, keep fighting, never give up or give in, and to figure out a plan. So he started swimming crosswise to the current until he escaped the riptide and managed to drag himself to shore alive. It's probably overstating the case to say that ARISEN saved this guy's life, but still you can imagine the impact it had on me to hear it. It was unbelievably affecting and humbling. Even more unforgettably, much more, I heard from a helicopter-deployed paramedic in mountain rescue in the Rockies, whose helo went down one night in the mountain wilderness. One of the other 3 crew members was instantly killed on impact, and the second was badly injured, and ultimately died in the night. And this guy had to somehow keep himself going while trying to keep his buddy alive, all in freezing temperatures at night in the mountains, until help eventually came in the morning. And what he told me was he also immediately thought of the operators in ARISEN and how they would deal with the situation. And he told me this was what kept him going. To say hearing a story like this makes what I do all worthwhile is not overstating the case. It is understating it by about infinity. Okay, so on that note, in addition to saluting the operators, here's a final salute to you, the ARISEN readers. As I've said, not only do you make it possible for me to get up every morning and keep doing this work and telling these stories, in particular, every time you recommend my books to friends, family, colleagues, or loved ones, that alone is what allows me to have a writing career. But it's also your love of the world and the characters and the love you've shown me that absolutely makes it mean so much. For that, thanks can never be enough. All I can do is try, and also keep telling these stories. Stay safe, be well, and I really hope you'll stay in touch. Write me anywhere, including via email, michael@michaelstephenfuchs.com, and I will always respond. And thank you again for taking the ride with me. It means everything. For now, MSF out.